All right, so here's what maybe some of you have all been waiting for. Here are some of my problems with Star Wars The Last Jedi, and I'm going to hit some bullet points real quick, and then I'm going to go into what I think is the biggest problem with this this film, and talk about a little bit about Rian Johnson and what I think his thoughts and motivations are, which is all just speculation on my part. So I'll completely throw that out up front. So a couple of little things that bothered me. General Leia supermanning her way through space to save her life with the Force. I get what they were going for here, is letting the audience see Leia using the Force, which I get. But it was just done so poorly and looked so stupid. Just the fact that, first of all, when they show her after she gets blown out into space, she is way far out there, and she has to, for an uncomfortable amount of time, do this. Just floating toward. And it just looked bad. It felt bad. It went on for way too long. And just real quick, the way I probably would have done it, because I understand what they're going for, is that maybe when the explosion happens, she uses the Force to just kind of shove herself aside, and to where she like maybe hits the wall, and then uses the Force again to keep debris from hitting her in the face, and then just kind of moves herself across the room instead of across, a mile of outer space. It just ended up looking bad and not playing at all, and I just was like, what am I watching? The next thing I thought was weird and I didn't really like is the dark side butthole in the first Jedi Temple island that Luke is staying on, that Rey crawls into. It really didn't serve much purpose, and it didn't really move any kind of story or characterization along. It just was there for really no reason, or a head fake, or whatever it was. I don't know. The next thing I hated was the Jumanji-esque stampede through the casino world of the pointless Finn and Rose storyline. It looked bad. And in a movie that was bloated enough, they tried to throw in a be nice to animals little PSA, and it just didn't fit, and it looked bad, and I hated it. The next thing I didn't like was them turning Admiral Hux into a cartoon character. He is now relegated to comic relief, and he did some strange overacting in The Force Awakens, but his overacting was more of a sycophantic kind of unhinged thing that he had for Supreme Leader Snoke, and he wanted to impress him so much, and he was very like, I need your approval thing in The Force Awakens, which made sense, but this, he was just a clown, and it just didn't serve him at all, and it was just such a complete 180. The entire Finn and Rose storyline was terrible. It went nowhere. It was pointless. They tried to throw in some social commentary with the 1%er thing that isn't necessary really in a Star Wars movie. I don't need it. I don't want it. Benicio del Toro was a waste, and I don't think he knows what a stutter is. He just sounded like a skipping record. And just as a side note real quick, the Finn and Rose relationship or romance or whatever that was is shoehorned in, and it's shoehorned because they have, first of all, zero chemistry, and second, the movie doesn't give them time to cultivate this relationship at all. Also, how about this for a surprising little subversive idea? How about you have a female and male character that can just have mutual respect for each other instead of having this strange fall in love moment and, the girl just kissed the guy in this unrequited relationship at the end, this little strange high school peck that just made no sense. I hated every moment of that. And then there is Admiral Holden, Laura Dern's character, doing one of the more visually impressive moments in the movie is where she turns the cruiser and light speeds right into Snoke's ship. It's an amazing moment. It's really cool. It's something, again, I haven't seen in a Star Wars movie. Doesn't mean it really belongs. What I would have wanted, though, to make it feel like it makes a little bit more sense, is just maybe a half a page of dialogue talking about why this maneuver isn't used all the time, because if you can do that, I mean, I can't believe that she was the first one to ever go, oh, well, this will work. So if you can do that, why don't they do it all the time? Why isn't that just a regular tactic? There has to be some reason that it isn't. It can't just show up just out of nowhere, because Lightspeed clearly has been around for 40 years. So Lightspeed's been around for a while. This can't be the first time anybody's ever thought of doing that. So it has to be a reason why they just don't use it all the time. And that's the problem with this moment, is that once you start thinking about it, you go, well, why don't they just do that all the time? And because I don't know why. I mean, and that's why it's a problem. That's why it's an issue. Visually, it's great, but you can't just use great visuals to justify nonsense. And the last little strange tidbit I'm going to bring up before I start talking about Rian Johnson is Snoke's gold lame robe. It's just a creeper robe. He looks like just, some guy trying to hit on a girl that's too young for him, and just looks weird. Just weird. I don't know what the choice that was. Why was he wearing a gold lame robe in his, throne room? Anyway, all right. So this last part, I want to talk about Rian Johnson a little bit. Rian Johnson has, at least from my point of view, all I've experienced from him is from 3 movies. Star Wars The Last Jedi, Looper, and Brick. I didn't see The Brothers Bloom, so I can't comment on it. So before The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson has been a 50-50 director. I thought Looper was brilliant, a really cool take on time travel, a really cool movie. Brick was some pretentious film noir bullshit. I hated it. I thought it was really dumb. I thought it was just eye-rolling. And so, yeah, so he's been 50-50, and that's fine. I really like Looper, so I was looking forward to this. And so while watching this, and afterward, and after I saw it a second time, I started thinking about what Rian Johnson did, or what his thoughts were. And this is all speculation. This is all just me making things up. I have no inside knowledge because I'm nobody. But what it seemed like to me, and I'll talk about things and why I can back this up just a little bit, is that Rian Johnson didn't want to make a Star Wars movie. He didn't want to make a space opera. He wanted to make his own kind of strange film. This film is weird. And it feels like that he just went to Kathleen Kennedy, who runs Lucasfilms for Disney. It feels like he went to her and sort of fooled her and talked her into him making this kind of new road for Star Wars. I'm going to bring Star Wars in a new direction, which sounds interesting, which sounds great, because The Force Awakens was a bit of a retread and trying to get people re-excited in Star Wars, which it did in spades. But this movie was strange. He didn't even want to make a follow-up to a movie he was supposed to be making a direct sequel to. And the reason I'm saying this is because he let a lot of those storylines just go, just fly away and go. And to me, that's not him being subversive. It's not him subverting expectations. It's not him going, well, let me try to do something different. It's him being lazy in his storytelling and his writing, and also dismissive of the universe and what's come before. And that's what really bothers me about this movie. Just as an example about why he's kind of outside the Star Wars universe or even making a space movie, the opening sequence, which I loved and showed me a lot of things that I've never seen before, has these at the moment where the bombers start coming in, these World War II style bombers that are slow moving into dropping bombs on the First Order Dreadnought, is a neat visual, a neat idea, but it's also very, very retro warlike. Plus, bombs don't really fall like that in space. And I get that Star Wars has never been space accurate, but it's always been Star Wars consistent, if that makes any sense. Another example in that same scene was Poe doing this amazing handbrake turn like you do in a car with his X-Wing. He just swings it around and goes the other way. I don't necessarily know if that makes it space, Star Wars consistent or not, but it's something that you would see done in like a Earthbound action movie with a car. that's the thing, and it just like, and there's one entire storyline that takes up the bulk of the movie of the Resistance cruiser kind of slow moving away from the First Order after their jump to light speed, and the First Order follows them because they can track them. But this idea of the slow moving away is like a master and commander type thing, or like, you know, ships that only use wind to move. That makes sense in that context. In this context, it doesn't make sense, because unless the First Order is a lot smaller than I imagined it to be, which I don't think it is, why didn't they just radio or send a message to another ship they had somewhere else to just light speed right in front of them, and the whole thing would stop? Otherwise, they just sat there and go, well, we'll just follow them and shoot them until they run out of gas. And it reminded me of a mildly interesting episode of a sci-fi TV show, but the problem is that this movie doesn't have like episodes before and after to create, you know, these interesting moments and character developments to support what's going on screen. All you have is the film, and so you have this kind of plotting thing that's happening that doesn't even make sense in the context of Star Wars science fiction or space. And that's what I mean. Rian Johnson doesn't want to make a Star Wars movie. He doesn't want to make a space movie, and he doesn't even want to connect what happens in the movie he's supposed to be making a direct sequel for, The Force Awakens. He has this wonderful moment at the end of Force Awakens where Rey's handing Luke the lightsaber. It's this great moment, the music swells, and Rian Johnson, being lazy, in my opinion, doesn't try to write a scene around that. He subverts expectations and throws in a bad joke. And you just go, oh, okay, I was hoping something interesting would happen out of that. Okay, I guess not. Fine. Well, then let's move on to the next thing. How about Snoke being nobody? Again, I don't think this is subverting expectations. This is Rian Johnson being you know, lazy and not wanting to connect things and not wanting to create a world. He wants to create his own world so he doesn't have to connect anything, so he doesn't have to work hard. And the reason I have a problem with Snoke not being anybody, I don't have a problem with him dying. I don't, not at all. Actually, that was a really great little like surprise moment. But to not know who he is, the problem with that is that any fan of the Star Wars universe, I think, would agree with me, is that Star Wars is supported by this rich history, this rich mythology and lore, that having a character as powerful as they're making Snoke out to be just show up out of nowhere. I mean, this guy is Emperor Palpatine powerful. Just to have him show up out of nowhere and say it doesn't matter who he is, and essentially saying Snoke was just some rando that, as powerful as he is, you've never heard of before, because they don't mention who he is. So he doesn't exist in the history of Star Wars, and it doesn't matter. But the problem is, having just him being some rando that decides to like take control of the whole First Order and cultivate Darth Vader's grandson, is just disrespectful to the entire universe to me, because you're going, I don't need history, I don't need the lore, I don't want it. It doesn't fall in with my subversive, you know, way that I think a Star Wars story should be. And that to me what Rian Johnson is saying. The next thing is the Rey storyline. Now, I really actually appreciate the idea of Rey not being anybody's, you know, her parents not being anybody. They're just junkers and drunks, which is great because it does kind of go along with this, the story. The only kind of theme that I really liked in this movie is that anybody can also be special and have, you know, be force sensitive. Anybody can. But the problem is with this movie is that he wants to tear it all down and say, not only do I want anybody to be able to do it, like the characters that are from nowhere, just like this little weird kid at the end, characters from nowhere are force sensitive and can be the backbone of the resistance, right? Fine, but don't also say it's bullshit for characters like Luke, who was also from nowhere, from what he thought, but from a lineage. There's nothing wrong with being special as well, from a special lineage, and being from nowhere. I think these two things aren't mutually exclusive. They can be both, but this movie doesn't want them to be both. It wants to tear down the old and say, all of that is bullshit. Here's the new. The unremarkable, will inherit, which is great, but you should also be able to. It should also be able to be both, and that really disappoints me because, by the end, with all the rebels running away, and going through the tunnel and getting saved by the Silver Fox. No, the other Silver Fox. Right. So, getting saved by the Silver Foxes, this ending doesn't fill me with any kind of wonder as to what's going to happen next. Oh, hey, let's go off on a sidetrack now. Can we get the First Order and the Empire to stop parking shit so far away that they have to drag it to where they needed to be? This cannon that they, taken wrenches to and unhooked it from a Star Destroyer and brought it down, couldn't they have parked it here's the Rebel base, right here, and just... It's space, people. It's space, guys. This is another thing where Rian Johnson doesn't want to make a space movie. He just wants to make, I don't know what. It's space. They can just land there, and they just shoot the laser. The fact that they have to land it back here and then drag it just across the salt flats is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. What I think would have been subversive, and here's why I don't think he is subversive, he's just not wanting to connect the dots of previous installments, is that if he was really, truly trying to be subversive, is that he would, who thought Kylo Ren was going to be the bad guy at the end? That's a normal thing, right? Kylo Ren's the bad guy, like he is. Who thought Rey was going to be still the hero, which she is. What would have been subversive is to have her, after that big throne room battle with the Praetorian Guards, have her get so enthralled in this anger and this power that she does actually join up with Kylo Ren at the end. And then they go down to the planet to see Poe and Leia and Finn. She is turned to the dark side or turned to help Kylo Ren. Luke physically shows up, confronts both of them, maybe has a little fight between he and the two, and they beat him. With Leia, with Poe, with Finn, all watching. And Leia, Poe, and Finn all look at each other and go, we need to go. We need to get out of here because we are fucked. That would have been an incredibly subversive and surprising thing. And unexpected and just mind-blowing. And then they run back and the 17 of them get on the Millennium Falcon and go off. And then you cut it there. That would have been an incredible ending. So yeah, I don't know if I'm excited for this next one because it seems like Rian Johnson just took what he wanted to do, which was not connect anything really from The Force Awakens except use the same characters, and just end it where there's 17 resistance people left. Enough to just fit on the Falcon, which isn't a lot of room. And then the little boy with the little hallmark moment of him catching the broom and force sweeping. And said, good luck. Good luck, J.J. Abrams and company. Good luck. Get to it. I wouldn't want your job. Connect all this together. Ending a series. This movie seemed like an ending. So why do that, Rian Johnson? Why make a ending, like a real ending to a trilogy, which is what I'm sure they told Rian Johnson it was a trilogy. Anyway, that's just what I think. This is a bit of a rant. I apologize. It is kind of ranty, and but I just felt really passionate about it and needed to make this kind of long sort of thing. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought down in the comments. Tell me what you thought of The Last Jedi. I'm definitely in the minority. Most people are loving this movie, and I'm happy for it. My mom saw it with me the second time. She loved it. That's great. I'm happy for everybody who loved it. I just had a lot of problems with it. If you like this, please like, share, subscribe down here at the bottom. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a drink on me, everybody. Bye-bye.